Welcome back into the channel, guys. This is Gary with Cougar's Corner, and today's video is just another what sold video for last week, January 18th through the 24th. We're just going to go through some of the items that we sold last week on eBay and give you guys some bolos and some other items to just be on the lookout for when you all are at the thrift. These are items that we pick up a lot of times every day or anytime we find them, and I just wanted to go through them and show them to you so that you know why we're picking them up and what we're looking for. Just some numbers from last week. It was a little bit of a down week for us compared to the week before. It's definitely January, and we can tell sales have slowed down quite a bit. This is just this time of year. After Christmas, things just tend to slow down. But based on our numbers, and it's so important to track your numbers because we know that coming up into the middle part of February, about a month from now, into March, things will really start to tick up. At least it has for us over the last couple of years. And then that momentum will just carry us on through the rest of spring, all of summer and fall, leading right into Q4 and the end of the year. So this is definitely the slow time of year, but sales are still trickling in. And my advice is if you're having slow sales right now, just continue to do the things that have brought you success so far. Make sure you're listing every day, sourcing good quality items, and then go back on your listings, look at your titles, look at your pictures, add item specifics, check your pricing, and make sure everything's still good. You may want to try running a newsletter or a markdown sale and other strategies just to try and entice buyers to come into your store to move some of those items that maybe are just getting stale or need some extra help. So again, our sales last week were a little bit less. We did end up with 161 total sales last week, and I think that's around 23 per day for a total of just over $5,200, and it's around the $32 average sale price per item. All right, the first item on our sold list this last week was this William Murray quarter zip. William Murray is a good golf brand if you find it, especially quarter zips and polos. This is a picture of the tag. It's the Bill Murray, the Caddyshack star, Saturday Night Live. It's a line just kind of dedicated to him, I believe. But William Murray, good golf brand. This one here we had listed for $31.49. We sent an offer. We usually send 5% offers to interested buyers, and the buyer bought this one for $29.92. And you can see the tag here. Not a whole lot about it other than just be on the lookout. They're pretty inconspicuous. The thrift store usually doesn't price these up. I think we got this one for less than $10. I wouldn't probably pay more than $10 for any of the William Murray stuff at this point, just because I think it's starting to slow down some. There's more of them in the thrift store that I found more recently. But yeah, this William Murray sold for $29.92. This is an Icebreaker merino wool t-shirt. Merino wool stuff does really nicely for us. I would put Icebreaker on par with Smart Wool and Ibex. It's a pretty good brand. It's fairly inconspicuous, so the thrift store is not pricing these up. We're usually able to pick these up for $5 or $6. This one sold on an offer for $30, and it didn't take very long to sell. You won't sit on these for very long. You just do want to check over them to make sure there's no major holes or flaws on them. A small pinhole or something like that is not a deal breaker on an icebreaker or any other type of wool shirt, but just check it over because if it does have large holes in it, you may want to reconsider that. But yeah, this one didn't take very long to sell, and it sold for, like I said, $30. This is a Vineyard Vines Fairhaven vest. What's nice about it is it's got the model name right there on the tag. Full zip, men's mock neck, blue golf vest, or just casual vest. These are an easy pickup for us. A lot of times the thrift store is pricing up Vineyard Vines, especially if it's a vest or a coat. I think we got this one for around $10, and we took an offer of $29. It was listed for probably 2 or 3 months, so I would have liked to have sold it a little faster, but we knew that just this performance on the go. Um, if you see that, that usually is a good indication of kind of the higher quality line from Vineyard Vines. I wouldn't be afraid to pick this one up. It's, things like t-shirts and polos, if they're not in excellent condition, we leave those, but more substantial pieces like this vest is a pickup for us. And like I said, this one sold for 29. This brand, NoBull, is a CrossFit brand. I mentioned it last week on our sold video. We sold some tank tops. This week, we have actually sold 2 pairs of gym shorts. I've just got this one up here. These are new with tags. It does not have much when it comes to the inside tag. You can see here it just says NoBull large, but you can see in this picture it does have the original tag. This one sold for $29.92 on a seller offer. Like I said, we send that 5% offer to interested buyers. The NoBull brand, if you can find it new, which is going to be fairly rare in the thrift store, they're probably worth picking up for $10 or less. I probably wouldn't pay more than that, even for the new stuff. And if you find this stuff that's used, be very careful picking it up. Just make sure that it doesn't have a ton of excessive wear. Gym shorts, tank tops, leggings, things like that. NoBull does make CrossFit shoes and weightlifting shoes, and so be on the lookout for those. Those can do okay, but again, just make sure you're not overpaying for any of the NoBulls. These Under Armour golf pants sold for $30. They were new with tags, and if I scroll through here, you can see where they're new. Normally, Under Armour golf pants, if I can get them for $5 or $6, I'll pick them up. Usually, no more than that. There's just so many of them at the thrift store now, and a lot of times our thrift store is pricing them up to 10 plus. Just regular golf pants like this, it's just not worth it. At $10, we're selling them for maybe 20 on eBay, and after fees and the amount of time it takes, it's just not worth it. But these were new, and they were only $10, so that was a pickup for us. And they sold fairly quickly, probably within a month or so, on an offer for $30. This Patagonia pullover, um, this one's a little different. I'll show you the tag here. You can see that it's the Capilene brand or the line, and it is made in the USA. It was a little bit older. It doesn't look like much. You can see it's pretty plain, just a gray quarter zip. And a lot of times the thrift store won't see these. I mean, they're moving so fast, and so they just price this more at their basic price. But if you see that tag, especially made in the USA, it's going to be worth looking up and probably picking up. This one sold for $30. We had it listed for just around a month or so. So that was nice to pick something up for 5 or 6 and sell it for 30. But yeah, keep an eye out for the Made in the USA Patagonia Capilene. This Under Armour ColdGear pullover. This was a pretty nice piece that I saw in the rack at the thrift store. I think I paid like $8 or $9 for it. It was a good size, 2XL, ColdGear. Had golf on. I want to say it had golf listed somewhere on it. Maybe it was the Storm. But anyway, it sold fairly quickly. I anticipated hanging on to this thing for a couple extra months just because there is a ton of Under Armour on eBay, and a lot of times even pieces like this don't move particularly fast. But this one sold fairly quickly on an offer. I got a $30 offer on it and accepted it because I knew that if you can get a good offer like that, to go ahead and sell these and don't try to hang on to them forever. But yeah, this one was a pretty good piece, just a sweatshirt quarter zip, but it looked pretty good. And that Storm line helps quite a bit when it comes to Under Armour. This Allen Edmonds belt sold for $30 on an offer. We did have it for a few months. Belts are something that we actually sell quite a few belts, and it's one of those things that the thrift stores don't price up too much. One thing to keep in mind with belts is usually if the brand is a good brand for clothes or shoes, their belts tend to be pretty good pickups as well. So getting $30 out of a belt, that's always pretty good. Belts are pretty tough for the thrift store to find brands on. They really have to look hard. This one here had it on the back, and a lot of times the folks at the thrift store are just moving quick enough that they're not really paying that much of attention to stuff like belts and ties. And so always take a look at them and see if you see something like this. It's worth at least looking up. Um, our belts at our Goodwill is usually between $5 and $7, and so picking one of those up to make 30 is usually a pretty good pickup. This Nike hooded jacket with the Middle Tennessee State logo on it sold fairly quickly. I was pretty surprised. Normally, for NCAA and college clothes, we'll sit on them for a few months. And with some of the smaller schools, it sometimes can take a little bit longer to sell. This one sold on a overnight, um, after probably about a week of being listed, and sold for the full asking price of 31.49. That does happen from time to time. So I'm never really scared to pick up college stuff, especially if it's a Division I college, and if it's on a good, like I said, Nike brand, and if it's a good piece. Like this is a nice quarter zip hooded windbreaker jacket. Um, and a lot of times, if it's a school that's not in our area, Goodwill won't price it up. So we were able to pick this one up for about $7 or $8 and sold it for 31. This Merrell coat took a long time to sell. I think we picked it up, probably over a year ago, and it's just been sitting. It was probably priced too high. It was a good size at 2XL, and we sent a seller offer for 29.92, and it sold. So I was happy to get that thing moved. I wouldn't recommend picking these up unless you can just get them for a few dollars and then price price low and get rid of them, because it was fairly bulky and took up a lot of room. But it was nice to get it out of our inventory. Um, Merrell, not a strong brand. Um, I probably would leave this again if I saw it, unless I was able to get it for just a couple dollars. These Mavi matte jeans sold for 31.49. We've seen this brand a lot at our thrift store. I don't pick it up real often unless I can get it for like $5 or less. Sometimes they'll last until we get to our 50% off color of the week at Goodwill, and we'll pick them up only if they're in really good condition. The size wasn't too bad, 38, 36 on these, and they were in decent condition. I don't think there was any flaws or anything that we had. So I was kind of surprised to see him sell for 31.49. um, I don't, like I said, I don't normally pick these up, but I would if they're cheap enough. And then just wait for the right buyer, and obviously take an offer when it comes along. This is a good brand to look out for. This is a Roark shirt. I don't have not found this brand too often. I did find 3 pairs of pants, all in a row on the rack at the thrift store recently, and we're waiting on those to sell. But this shirt, this blue and gray plaid snap up shirt, sold really fast. I took an offer on it. Well, it was priced at 35.99, and it sold on a seller 5% off offer. Um, and it's going to California. So good, good, strong brand. I'm starting to see it a little bit more. But if you find the Roark brand, definitely take a look and look them up and see what it is that you've got. And with a button down shirt like this, you're probably looking at $30 to $40. These women's ski snow pants are from a brand called Obermeyer. We see this from time to time, especially with like ski jackets and ski pants. These took a little while to sell. I think we found these at a garage sale. One thing that stood out to us was this tag that said made in Austria. You can see there. Anytime you see something that's made in a different country like that, besides some of the normal countries, it's probably worth a pickup. Um, just means that it costs more to make, usually sells for more, and the resale value may be more. It's not always the case, but sometimes it's a good indicator of some value. The other good thing is it's got what the type of piece is called here, these prowler, and you can just see they're a little bit higher quality. These sold for $35.99, the asking price, and we didn't have them maybe 3 months or so. So I mean, with anything specialty like this, you might have to wait a few months for the right buyer to come along to pick those up from you. This Patagonia Synchilla jacket sold for $40 on an offer. We had it for a few months, but right now we're in the middle of January, so I expected it to sell, at some point during the last few weeks. These are usually a good pickup. They are tough to get at the thrift store, though. Our Goodwill knows what Patagonia is, and especially if it has the logo right on the front, they're going to price it up accordingly. But sometimes you can find these at garage sales, and or sometimes the thrift will miss them. And if you can get them for even $15, and if they're in good shape, they're definitely worth a pickup. One thing that I like to do on these is to really check out for the wear, especially around the elbows. Sometimes you can see, like on this one, it's got some of the fleece is matted down on the elbows. So that can kind of give you an indication as to how much wear the overall piece has. And just one piece that we like to look at when we're at the thrift store, going through these items, making sure that they're all in good condition before we pick them up and bring them home. This Vineyard Vines Performance Polo sold for $44.99. This was brand new with tags, and it was part of our Vineyard Vines haul back right after Christmas. The Vineyard Vines outlet online has a clearance sale, and so we were able to pick up several pieces that all ended up averaging out about $15 a piece for brand new items. And we got around 80 or so new Vineyard Vine pieces, and so this was the first one of those that sold. We got them all listed here in the last week or so. This one took, like I said, it's been about a week since it's been listed. And so we were $15 into all those pieces, and this one sold for 45. So we think that that was a good haul for us. And so I would recommend, if you like selling Vineyard Vines or any other types of brands similar to that you see online outlets, follow those stores and check out any of their outlet clearances as they come up. You might be able to find some new tag pieces for pretty cheap. We ended up selling 6 Dixxon flannel shirts this last week. We had a big Dixxon haul back last summer where we picked up around 200 pieces of Dixxon flannels. There was a few of the bamboo shirts that we also sold, or that was in that haul. One of those bamboo shirts sold this week. I think it's this one here. They look a lot like the flannels. This one was just a short sleeve. The bamboo shirts are very lightweight, even though they still have all the other features of the shirt, like the pearl snaps a lot of times, and the custom labels. They just don't go for quite as much, although this one did sell for us for $49. But the other Dixons, the flannel shirts, again, you're looking just, I mean, they just move quick in whatever size. Most of the ones we got in our haul was 3X and 4X. The haul that we got was from one guy who collected a bunch and was just ready to get rid of them. We bought them all for around $15, and we've been selling them, a few every week since last summer. I think we're down to probably the last 30 or so. So that'll be sad when they're gone. But you can find Dixons at the thrift store. We've found several, and we'll pick them up even if they're priced up to 15, maybe even $20. There are some intricacies with this brand. Um, you can check out their tag. I talked about this last week on the Bolo video, but it's just worth repeating. Is that anytime you find the Dixxon, they're going to have um, specific tags, and usually it's either a collab or it's celebrating some company or some sort of hobby. Um, and different ones of those might have limited runs. They might have other specialties that just increase the value. And you can really tell that there's a lot of quality that goes into these Dixxon shirts. Like these here, you can see the buttons. It's got the name of the shirt right there on the buttons themselves. So definitely worth pickups for Dixxons, 15, $20 even. You're going to sell them, all day for 40 to $40 plus, depending on what they are. The next item that we sold that was good last week was this Johnnie-O quilted insulated coat. I found this guy at a Plato's Closet for $14, and I just was surprised it was in really good shape, good condition. I did some quick comps in the store. Johnnie-O's a good brand. Um, for things like polos and t-shirts, you want to be careful and just really make sure that they're in great condition. Anything performance is going to do better. Things like this, where it's a coat or a jacket, can do better, especially if you can get it at the right price. For 14, I figured we would have good luck with it, and it did end up selling for 55, I believe. And it only took a couple weeks to move this one, but don't hesitate on the Johnnie-O, especially things like this jacket. They'll do pretty good for you. We sold this Polo Ralph Lauren rugby shirt. This thing, we priced it high just because of the extra embroidery on the front. We ended up taking a $60 offer on this guy. A couple of things just to point out. You can see here the tag, and then on the front, let's see here, this extra embroidery really helps. If you do some comps and research on eBay, anything with any extra embroideries, any extra decoration on the shirt's just going to help the value. When it comes to the rugby shirts, you can tell it's a rugby shirt by this extra stitching on the front where the buttons are. Just in this area, it's going to have this extra stitching. It's going to be the rugby style shirt, and so you can put that in there. And then this also had some of the polo name embroidered on the front as well. So these are definitely pickups. Even if you see some that have light staining, small pinholes are still probably going to be worth picking up at $10 to $15, or anything even less than that. Um, they're just always going to be in demand. Different colors, different patterns, and embroideries are really going to help um, add increased value to these pieces. This is a G4 quilted vest that sold. It does have a custom embroidery on the front, this Nicholas Golf Club, but it was new with tags, and we sold it for 75. It was obviously it's brand new. I bought this from a guy in a parking lot who had some items from this golf club. I don't know if the golf course was just getting rid of some of its items or whatever, but he was liquidating some of them, and this was one of the better pieces of the haul. It was white, so just definitely really check over to make sure anything white is not going to have stains or marks on it. This one was clean, so I picked it up. Like I said, I paid 25 for this one, and it sold for 75, and it sold within a couple weeks, so I was pretty happy with that. G4 is a great brand for golf, polos, hats, pants, shorts, t-shirts. If you find G4, it's probably going to be a pickup. It's not as strong as it has been in the past over the last couple of years, um, but honestly, if you find G4, you can look it up, but it's probably going to be a pickup unless you're going to end up paying 40 or $50 for it. I wouldn't do that, but things just like polos and t-shirts, if you can get them for $5 or $10, I would pick them up. Polos are going to sell typically in the $30 to $40 range fairly easily. If they have golf course logos or embroideries, that may hurt the value a little bit, especially like with this one. I probably could have got over $100 for this thing brand new without the golf course logo right on the front. But polos, you can do the same thing. You can probably get $40 to $50 on the polos without the golf club embroidery on those. And the last thing that I'll show you guys this week, we sold these On Cloud running shoes. These are in a men's size 14. They're very large shoes. In fact, I found these with another pair of On Clouds in the same size. These took a long time to sell. I figured they probably would because of the size. Anytime you get over about a size 12, things start to really slow down in men's shoes, at least in my experience. These were really clean. They were nice, and they had good tread on the bottom left. They had been worn some, but you can see here some of the details of the tread was still there. So I probably priced them a little too high. I had them at 90. We ended up taking a $70 offer, which was actually not too bad for the amount of time that they were listed. Um, the other ones that sold probably sold a few months ago around the same price. And I actually paid up for these. I think they were like 20 or 25 at the thrift store. Goodwill knows exactly what the on clouds are in our area, and they will price those up. I've seen on clouds at Goodwill for $45 recently, and they were completely smooth on the bottom. They were completely trashed, but they're still pricing them up at over $40. So it's very rare for us to be able to find shoes like this at our thrift store. We have a lot better luck with shoes at garage sales. And so, with garage sale season coming up in the next couple of months, hopefully we're able to find some stuff like this and turn a good profit, because a lot of times garage sales, they're selling their shoes for $5 or $10 versus 40 at Goodwill. So like I said, these sold for 70. They have to go to an authenticity. You can see up here, Goodwill wants to take, or I'm sorry, eBay wants to take a look at them before they get shipped to the buyer. But that's just the way it goes with eBay's authenticity. But so yeah, that's what sold this week, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you found any of these items, put a comment below. Let me know how much you picked them up for, how much you sold them for, and if you would pick up any of these items. So again, thanks, and we'll see you next week with a new What Sold video.